Black Cat Lounge is sponsored by Beacon, a home for those who have a passion for filmmaking and the unusual. The Haunted Hinsdale House. Those who walk there do not walk alone. Paraware, apparel for the action-seeking paranormal investigator. Dragonfly art and soul for all of your magical, metaphysical, and spiritual needs. Mystery Control, your go-to feed for science, magic, true crime, the paranormal, and so much more. Paraniagara, one of the top rated destinations in Western New York. The Black Cat Lounge is part of the Paraflix Entertainment Network. Hey everybody, Tim Shaw. I am your most congenial host here at the Black Cat Lounge. We've got a great show for you tonight. And you know what? It's a hot topic. It is a hot topic, not the hot topic at the mall, kiddies, okay? I'm showing my I'm showing my age with that. But anyway, we're going to be talking about something that I've had a problem with. It's a love-hate relationship. So this is a trigger warning. We're going to be going and we're going to be talking to our guest tonight about one of his favorite topics, and I can see him in the green room doing this. And I'll tell you what, I never really enjoyed him, but I've had, like I said, I've had out of all the years, I've maybe had two things happen that might have been something. But anyway, I got to tell everybody that spring is here in Western New York, and I cannot wait to get out there and get back into the cemeteries. I can't wait to start digging up tombstones again, which is very, very soon. I can't wait to be able to get out there and have some fun with my cameras again. And I'm searching what else? I'm searching legends, lore, and all sorts of craziness. And that's what I love. And I don't have a copy of it here with me, but I want to thank T.L. Thomas from Eerie Expeditions magazine, who published an article that I wrote about the Buckland Museum of Witchcraft and Magic in Cleveland, Ohio. And it was just so nice of her to do that. And they did such a great job. And hopefully we'll be doing some more things in the future together. So, and of course, what else? I'm doing laundry. So as we speak now, this is what your congenial host does. He gets on the air and he does laundry while he's doing it. So if you hear a buzz, that just means one of the machines went off. It's not anything magical. But to talk about magic, tonight we're going to talk about scanners. Now, people either love them or hate them, okay? I just want to go. And first of all, I got to say hello to a couple friends. Laura, I love my Laura. I haven't seen her. Laura, I miss you from Michigan. Frank, all I can say is Frank. Miss Herman. Miss Herman's a good friend of mine. I love her to death. And Charles is a great paranormal investigator. So it's so great to see you. Anyway, tonight we're going to talk about scanners and spirit boxes. So I don't have many of them. Let me just back up a little bit. I have this one here that I do like. I use this. This is the one I use mostly. This was made by my friend DJ. He actually put this together. It's an all-in-one with the radio. It's got, the scanning box and everything there. I do like this one. I can control it better and I can actually hear it better. But this is a custom made, and I am so thrilled that he took the time to make that for me. Now, we have, of course, the famous Radio Shack. Now, this is not a hack box. Or this is a hack box, but this is not the original Shack hack. You can see this. You can take this when you go on a picnic. You can listen to some wonderful tunes and talk to spirits if you'd like, while you're all having a family picnic out there in the the kids can be in the playground and you can be looking for spirits. I do have the famous. I keep everything in boxes. You know, I'm kind of anal like that, but this way it just packs better. The 7. The 7. You know what? This is my old workhorse. I'm going to be honest with you. I've used this for almost all my experiments. This one, I think it's far superior to the new ones. And the new ones, of course, have, you know, they've got a better speaker system on there. But I put my stuff right into a speaker. Wait a minute, let me bring it out here. This I love. This is Gary Gulker's work, you know, along with that box. If you're going to go and use a box, spirit box, I always say get the one that matches to it. This match speaker. Here's your filter box. Gary Gulka made these Pro Measure. If you're going to go and you're going to spend a lot of money, spend it on something that, you know, of course, that you've actually been using or people use. This is a Sony Walkman. And what you do with this Sony Walkman to make it scan is you turn it on, you plug it in aerial, and then you go to Harbor Freight and you buy one of these handy dandy clips and you put it on there and it scans. Nice and easy, right? Also, what else do I have? Oh, I've got a bunch of stuff. Oh, so I got a couple more 7s in there. This is the Gulka's 11. This is an old one. I think it's the first generation. Used it twice. I've used it twice. Hate it. Hate it. And the infamous S-Box, the Ghost Scanner. I have to say that this is probably the most ambitious scanner that I own. Never got anything on it. I do like it because you can record your sessions with an SD card, but a mini SD card. But I've never gotten anything, any responses. I just got chatter on it. So, oh, and behind me, where is it? We'll go this way. That's a spirit box back there. That is something that I put together so that I could have fun with it when I'm working in my office, just to turn it on. And I use it as background noise. I also have one by Austin Maynard that's absolutely beautiful. It's great workmanship. But again, we got to talk about the whys and hows and what's and all the things. So we have a great guest for you tonight. I love this guy. He's a true brother of mine. And the reason why I call him a true brother is, you know what? Paranormal's cool. Don't get me wrong. But Civil War is even cooler. And this guy's a font of information on both. And whenever I get to Virginia, he is so generous with his time and to take me places that I've never been to before. And when it comes to the American Civil War, so I absolutely love it. But we're not talking Civil War tonight. We're going to talk about scanning boxes. So this is the guy. He's director. He's director of the Center for Paranormal Research and Investigations out of Virginia. And, well, I'm going to let him tell you a little bit more about it. But you know what? They're not a skeptical research organization. They are a scientific-based investigative organization. Some people may be a little bit more, skeptical than others. But I think that they do a fair share, and they do things that I have never dreamed of. And when it comes to the science behind of what we do. So guys, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, please welcome my good friend, the man, the myth, the legend, the guy who I go to whenever I have questions on things. This is my go-to guy. This is my go-to guy, especially when it comes to anything, when it comes to audio or EVPs or any kind of recordings or what am I doing wrong? What am I doing wrong? And he tells me exactly what I'm doing wrong. Mr. Brad Bradley. Brad, welcome to the show. I am so thrilled that you're here tonight.
Well, I'm thrilled to be here. I'm in your presence. I'm basking in the glow of your presence.
Oh, that's just gas. I had chili. I had chicken fingers for dinner.
So that's what that glow is.
That's it. That, believe me, it wouldn't be a glow. It'd be more of a fog.
There you go.
It'd be an ethereal fog. It'd be a
Yeah.
mist.
Hey, I gotta say hi to Damon, who you just put up there. Damon DeLuca. He's one of our members, and he's an electromagnetic engineer. The guy is like the mad scientist in our organization, so to speak. And I know
All
he's
of you guys-
cringing right now.
All of you guys are mad scientists. I'll tell you what, I think one of the greatest things that I ever experienced was being able to go and meet with you guys. And you know what? It's so, first of all, you guys, as an organization, from the people, everybody that I met, are so giving, especially when you come to somebody like, I come into this thing who is when it comes to anything scientific based, I believe in critical thinking, but I am not sure how anything works. Everybody took the time to explain what experiments you were doing, how you were doing it, what you guys were looking for in these experiments, and to me, that just shows the true measure of the organization, because you guys have gone out of your way to really try to push the field into the right direction. So Brad, enough of going out there and sucking up to you guys, which I do so well. I just want to ask you, tell everybody about the organization, because a lot of people are new here. Tell everybody about the organization, and the important thing: are you really looking for ghosts?
Well,
you like the way I snuck that in, Brad?
Yeah, you just kind of slid that right in there. I'm actually the research director for the Center for Paranormal Research and Investigation. We have a whole board of directors that actually do the whole business side of the organization. We're a 501c3 nonprofit, and we operate more like a college or a university than what you see on TV or what you see out in the wild, so to speak. And we operate not only on the scientific method, but also on the experimental design protocols. And we come up with a theory, then a hypothesis, and then we design the experiment. We run the experiment. We collect the data. We analyze the data. We draw our conclusions, and then the whole thing starts all over again. And that's just the way science works. And that's how we operate. Like you said, we're not skeptics. We don't claim to be skeptics. We are skeptical at sometimes, but we just follow the data wherever the data takes us. And if the data takes us down a path that is part of a belief structure, then we've got to follow the data. It's that simple. Right. We just follow the data. That's the data never lies. And I'm going to say that every chance I get. The data never lies. People around the data will lie, but the data itself never lies.
Well, here, let me ask you this about that whole thing. Too many times I'm seeing people, well-meaning people, don't get me wrong, well-meaning people who don't understand the science behind how things work, and they're claiming to be, I don't want to say experts, but I believe that they're leading a lot of people down the wrong path, because they're trying to go and claim to be scientific or science-based, whereas they don't have proper gear. They're only using paranormal, your over-the-counter paranormal gear. They're only using the tried and true methods. They're not looking for anything in a scientific methodology. They're just going out there and they're saying, okay, well, this is, we have electromagnetic fluctuations here. They have no idea what is what. They have no idea.
Yeah, what is an electromagnetic fluctuation? They don't know.
I mean, what do you have to say? Yeah, but what do you have to say about that? Well, before we say that, let me just go and ask you this: what kind of gear do you guys use? Because everybody that's listening in right now, they're all familiar with the stuff that that we go and we buy on Temu or we buy online or whatever. What kind of gear do you guys use? Which makes me cry and weep in my coffee every time I think about what you guys use.
Well, we got to preface this. We only use the gear we need to use for the experiment. We don't just get a whole bunch of stuff and just throw it at whatever we're doing. it's all part of the experimental design. And we've, in previous experiments, we have some really nice magnetometers that, they measure, not only the electromagnetic fields, but the electric fields, which is different.
Right.
And then the also different RF types of transmissions. We can measure that with these magnetometers. And then we also have the Geiger counters. Like one series of experiments, we're looking at the Einstein-Rosenbridge stuff. We're looking for spikes in ionizing radiation. It's one of the things we're looking for. So in that experiment, we're using a Geiger counter, and we have a bunch of those. We use sensors that that collect data around temperature, barometric pressure, humidity, because we need all this stuff, because we need to be able to throw out things that we know what the cause is. If the temperature is such, if it's a hot temperature, that's why that wall is hot, that kind of thing. So
exactly.
And it's basic stuff, but that's the kind of stuff we use. It's all stuff that you would find in either a physics laboratory or a earth science laboratory or something like that. And I'm a chemist, and I can't wait to get into doing some chemistry in this job. But right now, that's not in the cards at the moment, but it's gonna be, because I'm designing an entire experiment around phantom smells. So
I think, you know what, to me, I think this is fascinating because of the fact that I've seen you guys work, and you have this broad spectrum of and I'm going to say experts, or at least people who are very, very versed in their field. And I was just amazed. And when I sat down with your team and we were all talking, and they started telling me different things that led up to phenomena, and they started to establish patterns. I will say possible patterns, alleged patterns. We'll go with that. But there are some things that seem to be almost present at so many different things and so many different locations, that it was amazing. Now, okay, I'm going to throw it at you. What do you think of the people that are out there just spouting off and saying that, well, Tesla said this or that, and they don't have the real background behind it? And I know for me, and I'll just come right out and say that it's very frustrating after meeting somebody like yourself and your team to have to sit there and listen to these people using the store-bought stuff, as evidence.
Well, there are people that, they need to preface what they're saying with it being a theory. This is a theory. Right. And I've done the literature search around the theory. So I have all this literature search to back it up. However, you can't say it's fact until you go in and do the work, and you pull the data, and then boom, then you can, if you have enough data and you've got the reproducibility, you found your anomalies, Z-score of 3 or higher, whatever you want to, whatever your metric is, you do the work over time. And then you could actually come out and, it may not be fact, but it's closer to fact. And, just like, people, when they made aluminum, the way they've done aluminum, when they've gone through that whole smelting process and things like that, that was by pure accident. But they've come up with this material, and they didn't understand what it was or what it was good for or what have you, until they did the experiments, used it for different things, which is experimentation. That's all that is. And then they have their data, they bring the data in, and lo and behold, well, this aluminum, that's good for airplane skin. We'll use it for that because it's lightweight. It's good for these bicycles. We'll use it for that because it's lightweight, and it's strong. So, that experimentation, that's the work. You got to do the work. There are a bunch of people out there that claim to be skeptics that are not doing the work. They're operating, believe it or not, a skeptic operates on a belief structure. They believe that it's not something. And so, well, do the work. Do the work to back up what you're saying. And then I know there are people out there that do the work. And kudos to them, because they're pulling data, and we've actually grabbed some of their data, but and used it in our own experimental design. But the people that don't do the work, no, you got to do the work. You can't spout off fact saying it's fact if you have not done the work. And I'm not
Exactly.
talking about a literature search. I'm talking about going out, collecting the data, running your experiments, that kind of stuff. Here's the other thing too. Yeah, Nikola Tesla said, this, right? Said X. Well, he did a lot of work around that. However, some of his work was questionable, and so
No, I agree. I agree 100% because I've done some limited reading on Tesla, and what I've been finding is a lot of people are picking and choosing.
Yeah, they're cherry picking the data.
Yeah,
and that's you can't
exactly
do
the problem.
that. And that's another thing that people do. They pick the stuff that fits their belief structure.
Yep, I
and
agree.
That's
100%.
exactly what they do. They do it on the skeptic side, and they do it on the paranormal believer side. They do it on both.
They do.
And it's and we've talked in our group. Everybody in our group has a belief structure. I have a belief structure. I was raised in the Church of Christ. And I have a belief structure around that. Well, when you run the experiment, you can't afford. You have to take that and sit it back here, like any good scientist, and then you follow the data wherever the data goes.
Yes.
And you have to do that, and you can't cherry pick the data. That kind of stuff. I hate it when people do that because they only pick the stuff that fits their belief structure.
I just had this situation in an article that I just finished, and something that was taught to me from when I was a kid at Lilydale through the spiritualist lyceums and stuff proved to be what I consider false, because I actually found an article written by a doctor who actually had examined something, and it just crushed me. I'm not going to lie. It crushed me. But you're right. I had to take that belief system, put it back here, and then accept what has been left behind. So you go and you have to weigh everything, and you have to include it, even though it may not be. You sit there and go, dear Lord, do I put this in there? Yes, you have to, because you have to be as honest as possible. Our guest today is Brad Bradley, and we are talking now. I cannot wait. I can't wait, Brad, because we're going to be talking about one of your favorite things: spirit boxes and scanners. Now, now you know what? I walk a tightrope on this because of the fact that there are some people that they will hear this. They will hear something. They'll hear the chat. As a disclaimer, early on, 20-some years ago, when these things first, over 20-some years ago, when these things first came out, I used to call them nosebleeders because there was no filtration on there. They were brutal. I could not stand them. And I resisted using them for years. But the one thing I have found is recently, a lot of people have, bought guitar pedals, and, they're not as scientifically put together as they should be, but still,
sounds cool.
It's a little bit, well, the echo and reverb is a little tough for me, but you can actually hear a little something. Now you can be, I'm not sure. We're going to talk about, is it matrixing what we're hearing? Do you think? Or some people get messages that are like they wouldn't know about the location or a person that would be in that circle. So is it like, do you feel that working with these boxes adds into, let's say I kind of like hesitate to say a scientific investigation?
Well, it depends on, you got to think as a tool, it's got its own use. I don't dislike the box.
Right.
I dislike how people are using the box.
Okay.
Okay.
That was diplomatic, Brad. I like that. That was very good.
I work for state government. I'm very diplomatic. But just in saying that though, there are people out there that will get they'll get something that comes across a spirit box or a ghost box, whatever you want to call it. And when they do, they automatically leap to, that's got to be a communication from the other side because they're looking for it. That's called confirmation bias. You can't get around it. The only thing the only way you're going to be able to, even the Estes method is just full of confirmation bias. I mean, it just is, because they're looking for a certain thing, and lo and behold, if something comes across that's even the least bit associated with the thing they're looking for, boom, they automatically leap to that. Now, the other thing that I'm not a big fan of is that the spirit box itself has all these different things that could interfere with it.
Mm-hmm.
And I was actually showed that at an event in a location in Southwest Virginia, that somebody was standing there with one of these boxes, and I had a radio, and I called somebody on the radio, and when I did, I was close enough to the frequency that was on that box that my voice came across that box, and they said, somebody said Brad. Who said Brad? And I'm like, I did it on the radio here, and it came right across. And and you're going to have it the way it scans too. The timing of the scan from station to station to station. That iteration, excuse me, is going to cut off a lot of what is being said on that frequency. And that frequency could be coming from a fire truck. It could be coming from a police car. If you're down around in Radford, Virginia, there's a radio station up on the hill there that's blasting 50,000 watts on the AM bands.
Right.
And you got to think that kind of stuff happens all around you, and you're going to get this stuff coming from all over, which could easily interfere with whatever experiment you're going to run. Now, there's always coincidences, and the problem is, though, you can't tell if it's if it's some real or not, because of all the interferences that could happen with there.
Exactly.
So there needs to be a lot of more research done on the box itself, on that method, on the method itself. Now, I will tell you, the Frank's box, I thought, was a better idea. It did not scan.
Okay, explain that, because a lot of people, first off, the Frank's box, for those of you who are not old enough like Brad and I to remember these things, was made by Frank's Sumption, and he made these boxes out of just basic parts, just
Car
extra
radio.
parts. Yeah. And he would put it together, and it was great because he would go and build them, play with them, and then give them away. He would go and start building another one. And he wasn't really doing it for paranormal work per se. He was actually doing it for like trying to get like radio frequencies from other galaxies. Yeah, UFOs and that
space.
sort of thing. Yeah. So that's what a Frank's box is.
And the Frank's box, it didn't scan. You use the tuner on it and go from frequency to frequency, and then you spend a little time there. That's important, because you got to spend time on the frequencies. You can't just go over and have a millisecond hit on a frequency and expect to understand what it says. And 99% of what people hear on those spirit boxes tend to be things like right.
Whoa, right.
That kind of stuff. And then I hear a lot of people when they're using them going, "Oh, it just said now," or "It just said evil," or "It just said," it's like, what are you talking about? Unless you're a linguist, there's no way you're going to know what that just said. So that's the usage of the box.
Basically, you're suggesting that instead of, I'm just grabbing one at random. So instead of going and letting this scan, get yourself a digital radio and just go through the frequencies.
Yep, slowly. And that way you spend a little time on the frequency, and then you might get something that's intelligible, not intelligent, intelligible. And that way you can tell, you might be able to tell what it's really saying. And that way you can also identify, oh no, that's a police car. Or, that's AM,
fascinating.
That's AM 560, or, whatever, you can tell that what those things are. And then if you get something that says, Tim Shaw, by doing that, now you may have something.
See, this is something that's very, very interesting to me, because I've always felt that having an automatic scanner that has no control on it, that you don't have a control on, you can make it go quicker, you can slow it down, but you can't go and just make it infrequent, just like you would do palming a dial. I've always felt that if there was any kind of interaction, that you would end up missing it. And
Yep.
then years ago, so many people, the experts, would say, "Oh, well, those half words, Spirit is using those sounds to bring it together." And I never kind of dug that. I never
That's
thought
a
that
theory.
was, yeah, it's a theory. I mean, but I never really took to that. I
That's a
never
theory that
understood it.
borders on belief. I'll tell
Well,
you, that's what it does.
but a lot of it, you know what? As a medium myself who deals with belief more than
Mhm.
anything else, I mean, I can understand that up to a point, but I've really had a problem with scanners almost all my life. Now, Brad, I know I've told you this story before, and I'll uh, tell everybody again, and then I just want to hear what you have to say about it. Yeah, a couple of years ago, I lost all the vision in my right eye, and uh, I went and I had to have I had cornea transplant where they took cadaver cornea, a slice of it, and grafted it into my existing cornea. Luckily, with glasses, I've got about 80% of my sight back with it. So, you know, I was down here in the office in my collection room over there, and I was, you can't do anything for weeks. I mean, really, because it's held in by 6 micro stitches and an air bubble. That's how it's held in until it starts to heal. So I was doing some just, chair yoga and stuff. But as a lot of you guys know, that uh, I will go and put a scanner box on for nothing more than background noise. And that, for whatever reason, it's like white noise to me. It kind of relaxes me, and it doesn't bother. And I was thinking about it. I was thinking about, now, of course, now we have bias here because I admit to thinking about this. Who gave me? What was this guy? Who was the guy that gave me? We know that it was a male. We know he was 55 years old. He didn't have cancer. He didn't have AIDS. Uh, that's basically about all they tell you. They won't tell you anything more. The donor's name or anything. And I was thinking about that, and all of a sudden, the thing is kind of scanning, and it freezes on a weird name, Felix. That's kind of a weird name.
It froze.
And
It didn't go any further.
nope, it froze. It dropped. What happened is it dropped. By dropping, I mean it's like, and it went silent a couple seconds, and then it said Felix, silent for a couple seconds, and then it went back into scanning. And automatically, and Brad, you would do the same thing because you're like me. Do I know you? Right. First thing, you got to ask, do I know you? And it did that. It was scanning, and it's just almost real time. I would say seconds. Scanning, 3 seconds, 4 seconds, dead air. It said transplant. And then it went into dead air. And then it went back into scanning. And then I got nothing else. Nothing else. I had this happen once before where something said, "You will scream," in like that, it did that kind of drop, "You will scream." And then, so those are the only 2 times that I've ever had anything that I can say is questionable. And I talked to a guy in Michigan who is an audio specialist, and he had, first thing he asked me, AM or FM? I said FM. He says, okay, because AM has a lot of talk radio on it, so that could have been it. He says, the word transplant, were the syllables together, or was there like a little second or two in there? I said, no, the syllables, it was transplant, just like that, transplant. He goes, no, that's strange because that's a 2-syllable word. It's a lot longer than a lot of words. And if you're using a scanner, it shouldn't do that. That's not what the scanners are made to do. So hearing this, Brad, and knowing me the way I am, I'm not all, I'm not scientific or anything up there. I'd like your opinion on this, because it really, I have to say that it's the only time that I can say that a scanner might and this is again, I'm going to say I'm in the realm of belief with this, might have said something to me that was poignant to me, and also coincidence. Could it be a coincidence? Absolutely, and I'll be the first one to admit it. But what would you what would your take on that be?
Well, I mean, first off, I've run into situations like that, not necessarily with a ghost box because I don't touch those with a 10-foot cattle prod. But
I'll get you one. I'll send you one.
I appreciate it. Just like you sent me a piece of the Hinsdale house. I appreciate that.
It'll be out in your garage.
But anyway, I mean, in regards to that, I had when my sister passed away, it was she was in hospice, and it was everybody, everybody talked about these cardinals that were coming around her window
right
while she was in hospice. And I just, I being who I am, just kind of dismissed all that. And then when she passed right in front of me, there must have been 50 cardinals, and they are not, they just covered that window sill.
Wow.
And I said, I'd like to believe that was something, dealing with the passing of my sister, but I couldn't. There was no way that I could experiment with that or anything like that. So as a belief, I wanted to believe that because it helped me. It helped me a lot. Now, is that scientific? No way, no way. But I like to believe that something happened there. Now, in regards to what happened with you, with that, I guess whatever box you were using, the fact that it froze and it didn't, and you weren't doing like a half-second hit on a frequency, it stayed on that frequency for an extended period. That's interesting. That's very interesting, and that would actually brings up a whole series of experiments I want to run now. But thanks for doing that, Tim.
You're welcome. You're welcome, Brad. Anytime.
But the fact that it actually froze like that and you didn't just skip over the thing is very significant. And that means that somehow that particular it got stuck on the frequency it needed to be stuck on. And what would have been really nice is to know what that frequency is, because then you could tell immediately. Because one thing that we found out too is that, especially at that location I told you I had the radio station blasting and stuff like that, we actually had a frequency analyzer and could notch out the frequencies that would have interfered with stuff. And the problem is just about everything that we ran into was one of those frequencies. So, but if you don't have something like that, then there's no way you can tell. However, that is very interesting what happened there. And the fact that it's not so much for me, the fact that it said transplant, which is pretty neat. For me, it's where it froze. And if some way we could identify what frequency that was on, that would be very helpful. And then we could just focus on that frequency for a while and see what we get, experiment the heck out of it. Or I can tell somebody else to experiment the heck out of it and supervise the heck out of it. But, but anyway, yeah, that is fascinating to me.
That's the one. And I'll tell you, Brad, I mean, that's the one time or two times really, but that's the major time that I really sat down and said, wow, maybe there is more to this than we've gone and, allowed ourselves to think about it.
There needs to be some work done on it for sure.
Yeah.
I mean, there just is, because we just did, of all things, some of our members went and did some work on, a couple of our members went and did some work on the cat balls thing. Just to show, just to see what exactly happened and what would do it and everything. And they have an entire report on it. They have a ream of data about it, and presented it and found out that those things are exactly what we thought they were. But
they're cheap geofoams. That's all.
That's right. That's all it is. But even that, they're not consistent enough from one cat ball to the other to be useful.
No, you're right about that, because I mean, some of the geofoams, at least they are more consistent. Those,
they're very consistent, because an actual geophone. See, they use these cat balls use a standard cell phone accelerometer in them. That's what's crazy about it. And
Yeah.
doing an accelerometer thing like that, it basically sometimes like they were at a meeting and showed us all their data and stuff, and it was pretty neat the amount of detail that they put into this. And if you could, like, they had them in a milk crate, not a milk crate, sorry, an egg crate. They had them in an egg crate, a dozen of them, and they touched the table, just barely touched the table. When they did, and they barely touched the table, guess what? One of them lit up and the rest of them didn't. Then they banged on the table. 4 of them lit up, then the rest didn't. And then the other ones, you had to really flick them individually to get them to light up. So there was not any consistency across any batch.
Right. Well, let me ask you this. This is something that a lot of people have asked me about, and I'm not sure how to answer that. If you were to set up, you personally were to set up, and I know that you just would love to have one of these little devices.
I want one so bad.
I may pack one up. You might be surprised. But if you were to design an experiment around a scanner box, how would you do it? And I mean, what would you use to to accomplish that?
I'd build a real Frank's box first.
Would you?
Yes.
That's interesting, because I swear to God, I always remember Chris Moon. A lot of you guys might remember Chris Moon. He did a lot of work with Frank Summation, and he was really one of the he was one of the very first people out there that actually worked with scanners. And he was one of the only ones way back when. I remember talking to Johnny Zaffis about him, and Johnny was impressed by what he was doing. And he was using a Frank's style box that he had built, which, again, was not an automatic, feed, was not an automatic scanning on there. He was using it as with a dial. So would that be something? Okay, that'd be something that you would start off with. Is you would build something without that, or you would just take, let's say, a digital radio or whatever, with a dial on it that you can go and you can work
slowly.
at it.
Yeah. And one thing you got to do too is a lot of this, you got to be careful with the radio you use. It can't just be all digital reception, because a digital signal is just dashes and and dots and stuff. It's like ones and zeros. So you're not going to get unless you have something that can demodulate that on the radio. It's not really what you're looking for.
What about a tube? What about a tube radio? What a lot of us still have.
That'll work. I mean, any kind of radio that can pick up a signal. You got to think. And I'm getting like yelled at here. Okay, that's more about Sailor's Creek coming across. But the thing that I would do is, okay, the theory is communication across a radio frequency. Okay?
Right.
So at that point, we would get something that we'd have to design the experiment. That when you design the experiment, you're looking for some way to not only you've got to identify a frequency to test, to look for. And this is going to take a long time. This isn't one of those one and done things.
Right.
You're going to have to go to individual frequencies over extended periods of time and see if anything will come across. And if you hear anything, and if you do, you need to record that and make sure you know exactly what time it was, what day it was, what frequency you were on. And just say, and pretty much don't try to identify what it said. Just say a vocal anomaly, because if you start trying to identify what it said, you've just now introduced bias into the whole thing. So that's what I would do, and do that for a very long time. And if you identify a frequency that seems to be, something that's that you get a lot of activity on,
right?
Then what I would do is put it out there to the public and say, hey, this frequency, everybody needs to be looking at this frequency. share your data, show what you did so that we could try to reproduce it and actually look at that frequency and then spend some
That's
quality
interesting.
time on it to see if anything really comes through. And that right there is how this should be working.
That's interesting.
Because you cannot with one of the scanners, you can't identify what frequency just got the hit
No,
just happened.
no, you can't. I agree.
And with the typical ones, there may be some out there now where you can, but even if that happens, though, the scan is so short that you're not, the scan hit is so short that there's no way you're going to be able to identify what's going on. What happened with you, Tim, is significant. It's almost like you have you've touched on what a lot of people might even consider to be psi. And
I agree. Yes.
And so, there's a lot of things that can happen there. That's why that we have to go back and run these experiments over and over and over again to try to get reproducibility. And that way we can find directions that a lot of times accident we stumble on. It's like, oh, it's an accident. Geez, we got to go this way, and that's kind of how we have to run this thing. Using the scan boxes, nah, that's not going to help you. It's nice.
It's
a nice parlor
seriously,
trick.
as being transparent, I didn't record it, of course, and I have tried to go and duplicate the experiment with no success whatsoever. So, could that be within the realm of psi? Absolutely. Could that be a coincidence or a freak happening? Absolutely. I prefer to kind of bring it into the whole realm of belief. Now, a lot of people will go and listen to this and they're picking these things up. They're picking things up that other people wouldn't know or they would know about the location. I feel that that's mediumship, working with like because you're actually, it's almost like working with trance mediumship and working with white noise, where people will go and use that as a tool for trance. But now let me ask you this. Now, a lot of times, see if I have one that I can just grab real quick. A lot of times people will go and remove the aerials off of the scanners. And they say that now whatever comes through is definitely not a radio frequency. What do you say about that? Because because I know enough about, last time we talked about EVPs and audio to know about antennas or how things get get picked up. What do you say about that? Because that was a big thing that was on one of the last of the popular ghost shows, that they were doing that.
Well, if you take the antenna out, you still have not removed the reception capability of the device. If you have a walkie-talkie, that antenna is there to help you transmit, right? And if you take that antenna out, you can still transmit with the thing and receive with it. It's just the range is reduced, your power is reduced, your power transmission capability is reduced. In another life, I did emergency radio communications work. So I love
that in another life, Brad.
Yeah, in another life.
That is so fitting for this show.
but so having said that, it is entirely possible to still receive on a device that does not have its antenna attached. Just like you can also accidentally create an antenna with a very long microphone cable, which we have shown in the past, and picked up radio signals on it, and it comes across your audio. If anybody who has performed in a live band, like me, you perform on stage, when we opened for the Goo Goo Dolls, we actually had a really long cable going from one of our guitar foot pedals over to another, to the preamp. And it was probably a good 25 feet long. It had a short in it, so it was not grounded properly. And we were picking up an AM radio station. It was during our sound check, it was just driving us crazy. And we ended up just getting rid of the cable. But that stuff like that, it's the capabilities are many about receiving on that kind of stuff. And it's
something that I learned from you. It doesn't matter when you're working with audio, anything audio or scanning wise, Look around. Make sure that you make sure that you don't have these iron girders around you. Make sure that you're aware of where you are, because I was not aware, Brad, until you told me about how everything can actually act. Any kind of anything metal around you can act as an accidental antenna, and
Yep.
that blew my mind. And ever since then, now, any of the microphone work that I do, I mean, it's maybe 12 to 24 inches long, my cable. That's it. And I'm careful with that. Anything that I work with, if I'm in a factory style building, I am like very, very aware of where I am and what's around me at that time. Because sometimes I would get EVPs that made no sense at all. And then I realized what it was. It was a radio frequency that I picked up and recorded.
Yeah. Because there's so much EMF and RF flying around in our world
Yes.
today,
Yes.
it is really, really hard, even at some place as remote as Ashmore Estates, even some places remote as that place, you're still going to run into it. I mean, at Skinwalker Ranch, they're picking up that signal from satellites all the time.
That's amazing, isn't it?
And it comes across on a lot of their equipment, because their equipment's very sensitive, mind you, but it comes across on that stuff.
Right.
And we've run into the same thing. And that's why, we got to identify if something's a radio frequency or something's electromagnetic field or geomagnetic field, or we got to be able to identify that stuff. And that's very important. The thing that about the antenna situation, if you take that antenna out, there's still a circuit there that has a coil, usually,
right,
of some type. And, it's still going to have an antenna. You're never going to be able to get rid of it unless you get rid of the whole circuit. And at that point, I guarantee you, your box isn't going to work.
Probably not. You're right. Hey, we're running out of time, buddy. Tell us all about the organization, how they can get a hold of you guys, where you guys are hanging out, and how they can ask you. And I'm just going to call you the Maestro Brad. How they can get a hold of you and figure out maybe an experiment, or maybe run something by you to get your opinion on.
Well, you can email me. There's our website right there, and centerpri.org. And also, you can email me at science@centerpri.org. That goes straight to me. And if you have any ideas, or you just want have a question or what have you, I'll gladly take your email, and I'll gladly, because I answer emails every day on that email. So I'll gladly do that. We share data. If there's a specific piece of data you're interested in, we do share data. We have an open data policy, which is what academia tends to do. We're not like a lot of TV shows where they put all their data behind a paywall. We're not like that. So, and also you can get to us on Facebook. We have a lot of stuff on Facebook, links to things like this. We have links to papers. We have links to other things on the Facebook, and that's, you can find us at CPRI, the Center for Paranormal Research Investigation, on Facebook. So those are the best ways to do it.
You know what, Brad? I got to thank you so much for taking the time. I always look so forward to just picking your brain on so many different things. And I know how much this just hurts you.
If you turn that on, Tim, I swear.
I almost listen. I made sure I took all the batteries out of it for two reasons. For two reasons. I don't want the batteries to leak, and number two, I don't want to aggravate you, because you're a dear friend of mine.
Oh my God.
Thank you so much for being on the show tonight. And
sure.
You know what? Again, I've learned so much, and this is almost like a trigger topic where people are really like passionate about it. And you've got two schools of thought on this. And the one thing that I have to say that I'm walking away with is the fact that, you know what? You got to be open-minded. Sometimes this stuff works for no other reason why. Maybe belief, maybe it was a fluke. Who knows? But let's just kind of go to try to debunk as much as we possibly can.
Well,
You
just
know,
do the work and
yeah,
collect the data. And that way
I
you can
agree.
draw an educated conclusion. You can
I
actually
agree.
draw a conclusion based on data instead of just a total belief structure. And that
Exactly.
way, that's the way you need to handle it. So
Exactly. Brad, stay on the line. I want to thank you properly because why? You are Brad Bradley, the man, the myth, the legend. We'll talk to you in just a short bit.
thank you.
I love Brad. He's one of my dearest friends. I love him with all my heart because of the fact that we connect on so many different levels. But I always learn so much about everything about the scientific aspects of the paranormal. And again, there's a lot of people walking around here saying that, oh well, I did the work, and they don't understand the scientific methodology behind it. They don't understand the true science behind it. And I say, go to a place like his organization, the Center for Paranormal Research and Investigation. Get on their website and research. And when you have a question, ask. Don't take everything for granted. Okay, guys, this is Tim Shaw. Thank you guys for being a part of my life and the show tonight. I appreciate each and every one of you. We're at the Black Cat Lounge. Where else? Where the elite meet next to the dumpster transfer station. Take care, guys. Ciao. Be good. Be kind. Do something positive tomorrow. And remember, your hair is perfect. Ciao. Bye-bye.